All right, so we're diving deep into AI in hiring today.
Yeah,
You send over a ton of sources on
I
this.
did.
Industry reports, case studies, even some recruiter opinions.
It's a lot.
It really is. It's like a snapshot of what's happening right now in 2025 with AI and hiring.
Hmm.
So whether someone listening is on the job hunt or in HR or just fascinated by this whole tech revolution,
Right.
we're going to pull out the need-to-know insights today.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that's really interesting is how fast AI has become mission critical
Oh, yeah.
for a lot of HR teams.
Yeah, the 2025 HireVue Global Guide to AI and Hiring report,
Yeah.
that one really stood out to me. It said that weekly AI usage in HR has jumped to 72%,
Wow.
up from 58% just last year.
Huge.
It's a massive leap, and ChatGPT and other chatbots seem to be leading that charge.
Definitely.
So what do you think is fueling this rapid adoption?
Well, the data shows that 63% of HR professionals
Okay,
are saying they've got big productivity boosts from using AI.
that makes sense.
Think about it. They're dealing with mountains of resumes, scheduling interviews, managing all the communication with candidates.
That's a lot.
It's a ton.
Yeah.
So AI can automate all those repetitive tasks,
Right.
which frees up HR to focus on strategy and building relationships.
Okay, so that makes sense, but then I'm also seeing this weird contradiction
Oh, yeah.
where HR seems really comfy with AI as like a decision support tool,
Yeah, okay.
but not a replacement for humans making judgments.
Right.
But then on the other hand, you have job seekers who are way more skeptical.
Yeah.
2/3 of them don't want AI making the final hiring call.
Interesting.
So it seems like there's this trust gap that we need to figure out.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This is a major issue that companies can't ignore.
Yeah.
It brings up so many questions about fairness and transparency
Right.
in a process that's driven by AI.
Hmm.
How do you build trust when this technology can feel like a black box?
Yeah, and speaking of pushing boundaries,
Yeah.
this next part is where things get really kind of mind-bending.
Yeah.
The rise of what some are calling agentic AI.
Right. So agentic AI is a huge leap forward.
Okay.
It's not just about AI assisting humans,
Mm-hmm.
but AI taking independent action based on its programming and the data it analyzes.
Wow.
A great example is Salesforce's Agent Force,
Okay.
which can resolve 83% of customer inquiries completely on its own.
Really?
It uses natural language processing to understand what customers are asking and machine learning to give the right responses and solutions even to really complex questions.
That's incredible.
It is.
But let's bring it back to hiring.
Sure.
What does this mean for people looking for jobs and the companies hiring them?
That's a great question.
Are we going to see AI scheduling interviews, sending offers, maybe even conducting interviews in the future?
Well, we're already seeing some early examples.
Oh, yeah.
Chipotle, for example, is using its AI called Avocado
Ew.
to speed up a lot of its hiring processes. It definitely makes things faster, but it also raises questions about how comfortable candidates are interacting with an AI at such a crucial stage.
Yeah, it makes you wonder about that balance between efficiency and that human touch.
Right.
Especially when people's jobs are on the line.
Definitely.
But with all this talk about AI, where does this leave skills-based hiring?
That's a good question.
Is that becoming less important or more important in this new landscape?
I'd say it's becoming even more important.
Okay.
We're facing kind of a perfect storm right now.
Oh, yeah.
On one hand, you have this ongoing skill shortage. 76% of employers are having trouble finding qualified candidates.
Wow.
And then on the other hand, you have AI making it easier than ever for candidates to write really polished resumes and cover letters
Right.
that might not reflect their real skills.
So it's like a double-edged sword. AI is creating the problem and the solution.
Exactly. So companies are realizing that directly assessing skills is the only way to cut through all the noise.
Are there any examples of companies doing skills-based hiring well in this AI-powered world?
Absolutely. Northwell Health is a great example.
Okay.
They're actually combining skills-based assessments with a focus on community engagement.
Interesting.
They're reaching out to potential candidates where they're building relationships and then using objective assessments to evaluate skills
Okay.
rather than just relying on resumes.
So they're not just looking at a piece of paper.
Right. The result is more satisfied candidates and a pipeline of applicants who are actually qualified for the jobs.
I love that example. It shows you can use technology but still keep that focus on human connection.
Exactly.
But let's be real. There's this huge question hanging over everything we've talked about.
What's that?
Trust.
Yeah.
How do you build trust in a system that feels so opaque, so driven by algorithms?
Trust is the foundation of any successful hiring process, and it's even more important now.
Okay.
Research shows that HR professionals are trusting AI more and more,
Yeah,
especially for recommendations. But candidates are more hesitant.
that makes sense.
They're worried about bias,
Right.
about their data being misused, about being judged by a machine that doesn't understand their situation.
And those are all valid concerns. One article highlighted that almost half of job seekers see racial bias as a major issue with AI in hiring.
That's a real concern.
And it's not just about bias. Transparency is key too.
Absolutely.
79% of candidates want to know how AI is being used, not just that it is.
Right. It's about being open about the process.
Yeah, companies need to be upfront about how they're using AI, what data they're collecting, how they're mitigating potential bias.
I agree.
And they need to partner with ethical vendors building tools that are explainable.
Yes.
So you can understand why the AI is making the decisions it's making.
That's so important.
That approach that Northwell Health is taking, that mix of community engagement and skills-based assessments,
Yeah.
that seems like a good model for building trust from the ground up.
Absolutely. When companies are transparent and prioritize human connection along with technology, it builds confidence and makes the process less scary for candidates.
So we've covered a lot, the explosion of AI in HR to this rise of agentic AI to the importance of trust and transparency.
It's a lot.
It's clear that AI is impacting hiring at every level.
Yeah.
But what about the people at the very top? Is executive search being disrupted by AI too?
Even C-suite hiring is feeling the effects.
Okay.
While traditional search firms are still important, companies need to be smart about the true costs involved.
What do you mean?
Not just the fees, but things like the time and resources spent internally and potential delays in filling those really important roles.
Right, so it's not as simple as just looking at the price tag.
No, it's more complex than that.
And then there's the question of finding the right balance between human expertise and AI efficiency.
You got it.
It's a tricky equation.
It is, and it shows that companies need to be strategic and informed when they're making decisions about executive search in this new world.
Yeah. Now, before we move on, I want to touch on something that isn't directly related to AI,
Okay.
but it's having a huge impact on hiring.
What's that?
Student loan debt.
Oh, yeah.
It's a massive burden for so many young workers.
It is.
And it's influencing their career choices.
Definitely 62% of young workers are factoring student loan debt into their job offers.
Oh.
And it even affects how long they stay at a company.
So it's not just about getting a job, it's about finding one that will help them manage this huge financial burden.
Exactly.
And we are seeing companies start to respond to this
Yeah.
with student loan repayment assistance programs.
Right. It's becoming a way to attract and keep talent.
Like Abbott Labs.
Exactly.
They're seeing a 19% higher retention rate among employees using their program.
It's a win-win. Employees get help and companies keep their employees longer.
It's a great example of how companies can tackle real-world economic problems and boost their own bottom line at the same time.
I agree.
Now, with all this talk about AI's capabilities, I have
Yeah.
to ask, are we seeing candidates using AI to their advantage, maybe even trying to game the system?
It's definitely happening.
Hmm.
There was a recent case of a software developer who used AI to change his appearance during a video interview and then gave answers generated by ChatGPT.
Wow. So if candidates are using AI to potentially trick recruiters, what can companies do? How do you even fight that?
That's the big question. It's a new challenge, and we're still figuring out the solutions.
Right.
Recruiters might need to start using AI detection tools
Okay.
and come up with tougher assessment methods that go beyond just trusting what they see and hear in an interview.
It sounds like we're in an AI arms race.
It really does.
Candidates using AI recruiters, using AI to detect AI.
It's a whole new world.
It's wild, and the pace of change is only going to speed up from here.
Absolutely.
The question is, are we ready for what's next?
That is the question. It feels like we're at this turning point,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
huge shift in how we think about work and skills.
Totally agree. And that brings us to the bigger picture. What does all this mean for us? AI is reshaping the hiring landscape,
It is.
but it's not just about automation taking over.
No, it's about finding that sweet spot, that balance between AI's efficiency and the human element.
Right. We can't just hand the whole process over to algorithms
Absolutely not.
and hope everything works out perfectly.
Right. It's not about replacing human judgment. It's about using AI to enhance our abilities.
To make us smarter and more effective
Exactly.
in our roles.
The companies that do well in this new world will be the ones that take a high-tech, high-touch approach.
Interesting.
They'll use AI to streamline things and get insights,
Oh, okay.
but they'll also prioritize relationships and fairness and transparency.
Makes sense.
It's about validating skills, not just parsing resumes or trusting AI to do all the work.
And let's not forget communication.
Oh yeah, that's key.
Companies need to be upfront with candidates
Definitely.
about how they're using AI.
Right. Being open and honest about the process will build trust.
Especially for people who might be unfamiliar with the technology or worried about how it works.
Transparency is key.
Yeah, candidates deserve to know how their applications are being evaluated and what role AI plays.
This open communication will help ease fears and create a more positive view of AI in hiring.
Okay, so we've talked about the present state of AI in hiring,
Right.
challenges and opportunities right now.
Hmm.
But what about the long term? What skills are going to be most valuable in this AI-powered world?
That's a great question.
Are we doing enough to get people ready for this shift?
As AI takes over more of the routine tasks,
Right.
the really human skills like creativity,
Mhm.
critical thinking, problem-solving, emotional intelligence,
Yeah,
those are going to become even more important.
those are hard to automate, aren't they?
Exactly.
Maybe impossible.
So they're the skills that'll help people stand out.
In a world that's changing so fast.
Right, where being able to adapt and learn new things quickly is essential.
This makes me think about our education system. Are we teaching students what they need
Oh, that's a big question.
to thrive in a future where AI is everywhere?
Honestly, it keeps me up at night sometimes.
Right.
It's not just about technical skills. It's about those core human skills that make people different from machines.
Right.
We need to encourage curiosity, collaboration, the ability to think critically and creatively.
So not just memorizing facts.
No, we need to create learning environments that encourage exploration, experimentation, a love of learning throughout life.
It sounds like we might need to completely rethink our current education model.
Maybe you're right, the traditional model of just memorization and tests might not be enough.
For the complexities of an AI-driven world.
It might not be enough to prepare students for that kind of world.
This reminds me of that disconnect we were talking about
yeah.
between how HR pros and job seekers see AI in hiring.
Interesting.
You've got HR pros who see AI as this powerful tool
Mm-hmm.
to streamline their work and help them make data-driven decisions.
Right. They see the potential for more efficiency, less bias, better outcomes.
But then you have job seekers who are more worried about the whole thing.
Yeah, they're worried about unfair use of their data,
Right.
about algorithms making decisions that affect their livelihoods without any human involvement.
Yeah, being reduced to data points in a process that feels cold and impersonal.
Right. And that's where the human element becomes even more crucial.
Absolutely. We can't forget that hiring is ultimately about people.
It is.
It's about finding the right fit, building relationships, creating a sense of belonging in a company.
Exactly. AI can help with all that,
It can.
but it can't replace the human touch, the empathy that really makes a difference.
This makes you think about recruiters. How do their jobs change as AI becomes more advanced and more integrated into everything?
I think recruiters will become more like strategic advisors, almost like talent consultants.
Interesting.
They'll need to know how to use AI tools,
Yeah.
but they'll also need to be really good at the human side of hiring, building relationships, understanding what motivates people, connecting with candidates on a deeper level.
So they become the bridge between the technology and the human experience.
Exactly. They use AI to be better at their jobs, but never lose sight of the people involved.
Okay, so let's switch gears a bit
Okay.
and talk about some of the AI tools and trends shaping hiring today.
Sounds good.
One thing that stood out to me in these articles was the difference between inferred skills and validated skills.
That's a huge distinction and one that often gets missed.
It does.
Validated skills are the ones that have been measured.
Okay,
So there's proof that a candidate has what it takes for a job.
like concrete evidence.
Right. It's about having data that shows they can do what they say they can do.
So it's not just taking their word for it.
No, it's about seeing the proof.
And inferred skills are basically educated guesses, right?
Yeah, based on things like their past experience, their education keywords on their resume.
So you're kind of reading between the lines.
You are, and while those guesses can be helpful starting points,
Okay.
they're not always accurate. They can lead to bias, bad matches, and ultimately bad hires if they're not based on solid data.
It's like judging a book by its cover.
Exactly. You might get lucky sometimes,
Yeah.
but most of the time you're going to miss the real story.
So how do we move to a system where skills are validated, not just inferred?
The key is to use AI tools that let us directly assess those skills.
In a more objective way.
Right. This could mean things like video interviews where candidates solve real problems, coding tests. that actually test their coding simulations that put them in realistic work situations.
So it's about going beyond the traditional resume and cover letter
Exactly, and actually seeing what candidates can do.
in a way that's more relevant to the job and less biased.
That's the goal.
It's about making sure those AI assessments are fair and unbiased.
Yeah, and accessible to everyone,
Right.
no matter their background or circumstances.
We can't just assume AI will automatically be fair.
No, we have to be intentional about how we design and use these systems.
And we have to constantly check and refine them,
We do to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do.
finding the best candidates.
Right, based on their skills and abilities.
Not on things that are irrelevant or discriminatory.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot.
We have the rise of agentic AI, the need for skills-based hiring, transparency, trust, and a human-centered approach.
Is there anything else from these articles that really stood out to you?
One thing that struck me was the discussion about the potential impact of AI on the economy.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Some experts are saying AI could lead to job losses,
Yeah.
while others say it will create new jobs and boost productivity.
So there's a lot of debate.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
Right.
AI will probably have both positive and negative effects on the economy.
So how can individuals, companies, and governments get ready for this AI-powered future?
It's going to take a multi-pronged approach.
Okay.
We need to invest in education and training programs that give people the skills they'll need.
To succeed in an AI world.
Exactly. We need policies that help workers who lose their jobs because of automation
Right.
to transition to new roles.
So it's about supporting those who are displaced.
It is. And we need to create a culture of lifelong learning
Yeah.
where people are always adapting and upskilling
So always learning and growing.
as technology changes.
Yeah, I'm curious, though, about the potential for AI to make existing inequalities worse.
That's a valid concern.
If it's not implemented carefully,
Right.
could it widen the gap between those who have and those who don't?
If AI isn't developed with equity and inclusion in mind,
Yeah.
it could make existing biases even worse.
Like if AI hiring tools are trained on biased data sets.
Exactly. Then they could unfairly disadvantage certain groups of candidates.
So what can we do to stop that from happening?
We need to prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion
Right.
at every step of AI development.
From the beginning.
Right. This means making sure AI systems are trained on data that represents everyone,
So diverse data sets.
that they're designed to be fair,
And unbiased,
and that everyone can access them.
no matter their background.
Exactly.
It sounds like we need ethical guidelines and regulations for AI in hiring.
I agree. We need clear standards for transparency, accountability, and fairness.
And we need to hold companies responsible for using AI ethically.
Absolutely.
This brings up another interesting concept from these articles, explainable AI.
Yes. Explainable AI is about making AI systems more transparent so humans can understand them.
So we can peek behind the curtain.
Exactly. It's not just about the AI making a decision. It's about being able to understand why it made that decision.
So we can see the AI's thought process.
In a way, yes.
Why is that so important for hiring?
For a few reasons. First, it builds trust.
Okay.
If candidates understand how the AI works,
Mm-hmm.
they're more likely to trust its decisions.
Even if they don't like the outcome.
Even then, trust is crucial.
If they don't trust the system,
Yeah.
they might not even apply or accept offers.
Exactly. Second, explainable AI can help us find and fix bias.
Yep.
If we can see how the AI is thinking, we can spot biases in the data or the algorithms.
And then correct them.
Exactly. It's about using AI to make things fairer, not to continue existing biases.
And finally, explainable AI can help us learn from the AI's decisions.
Right. By understanding how it's thinking.
Yeah.
We can learn about our own hiring processes.
And to find ways to improve.
Exactly. Maybe we're unconsciously biased, or our methods are outdated.
So the AI can teach us about ourselves.
In a way, yes, it can highlight areas where we need to grow and evolve.
It sounds like explainable AI could be a game changer for hiring.
It could make the process more transparent, fair, and ultimately more effective for everyone.
For both companies and candidates.
Exactly.
Okay, we've talked about the potential of AI in hiring.
Mm-hmm.
But it's important to remember there are also downsides and risks.
Of course, one concern is that AI could make the hiring process less human,
Less personal.
right? If we rely too much on algorithms,
Yeah.
we risk losing those personal connections and human judgment.
Which are so important for finding the right fit.
Absolutely. It's about finding that balance.
Between efficiency and humanity.
Exactly. We don't want AI to turn hiring into a cold transaction.
And what about the possibility of AI creating new types of bias,
That's a real risk.
even if we're trying to make it fair?
If AI systems are trained on biased data,
Right.
they can make those biases even worse.
So we need to be careful about the data used to train these systems
We do, and constantly monitor them for signs of bias.
and be open to feedback from candidates and employees
Absolutely, their experiences are really valuable.
to help us find and address problems.
They are.
This all makes me think about regulation.
Okay,
Do we need stricter rules for AI in hiring?
that's a hot topic right now.
Yeah.
Some people think regulation is crucial to protect against the potential harm of AI.
To make sure it's used safely and ethically.
Right. While others worry that too much regulation will stifle innovation.
So it's about finding the right balance.
It is between encouraging innovation and protecting people.
We need to find a way to do both.
We do. It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
But it's a conversation we need to be having now.
So we can shape a future where AI is used responsibly
And ethically.
in a way that benefits everyone.
Okay, so we've covered a lot in this deep dive.
We have, from the potential of AI in hiring,
To the potential risks.
it's clear that AI is going to play a bigger and bigger role in the future of work.
The question is, are we ready?
That's the question we all need to be asking.
We need to be having these conversations now.
Exploring different viewpoints
Challenging assumptions.
and working together to create a future where AI is used to make work more equitable and fulfilling.
I love that idea of working together to create the future we want.
It's about being proactive, not reactive.
Shaping the future, not just letting it happen to us.
Exactly.
So how can companies actually get ready for this AI-powered future?
Well, it's a lot to think about.
It is.
But I think the most important thing is to start experimenting with AI tools now.
Don't wait until it's too late.
Exactly. There are so many resources out there.
There are.
And it's easier than ever to start using AI in your hiring process.
Even in small ways.
Right. Just start somewhere.
What else?
Invest in training your employees.
Okay.
The skills that are in demand today might not be the skills needed tomorrow.
So help them adapt.
Help them develop the resilience they'll need to thrive in a constantly changing world.
Create a culture of lifelong learning in your company.
Exactly. Where employees are encouraged to always be learning and growing.
What about leaders? What's their role in all of this?
Leaders need to be champions for AI.
Okay.
They need to talk about the potential benefits of AI.
Enthusiastically.
Yes. But they also need to be aware of the risks.
And take steps to address those risks.
Right. It's about finding that balance between innovation and responsibility.
And it's about leading by example, right?
Absolutely.
If leaders are excited about AI and using it themselves,
Yeah.
it sends a positive message to everyone
It
else.
creates a culture where AI is seen as a tool that helps people, not a threat.
So it's about shifting that mindset.
It is.
Okay, so we've talked about the practical steps companies can take to prepare for this AI future.
But let's zoom out even further.
Okay.
What are the bigger societal implications of AI that we need to be thinking about?
That's a huge question, one that deserves a lot more discussion.
It does.
But one of the most important things to consider
Yeah.
is how AI will affect work itself.
How will it change the very nature of work?
As AI automates more tasks,
Right.
it's going to change the way we work,
The skills we need.
the types of jobs that exist.
Some jobs will disappear, new jobs will be created, and many existing jobs will be transformed.
So it's not just retraining people for different tasks.
No, it's about helping them develop new ways of thinking and problem solving.
And interacting with technology.
Right. We need to get ready for a future where human skills,
Creativity, critical thinking, emotional intelligence.
this is going to be more valuable than ever before.
This takes me back to education again.
Yeah.
How do we make sure our education system is preparing students for this AI-powered future?
That's the key question. We need to move away from memorization and tests
The old way of doing things.
and focus on creativity, problem-solving, collaboration, critical thinking about technology.
So giving students the skills and mindsets,
To be lifelong learners.
able to adapt and thrive in a world where change is the only constant.
Exactly. The world is changing so quickly
It is.
that being able to adapt and learn new things
Yeah.
will be the key to success in any field.
It's not just about the skills, though.
Right.
It's about the values and ethics we teach.
That's crucial. We need to teach students to be responsible, ethical, and compassionate users of technology,
To think critically about the implications of AI.
and to use it in a way that benefits everyone.
AI can be used for good or for evil.
It's a powerful tool.
It can solve
But
problems.
it can also create new problems or make existing inequalities worse.
So it comes down to the choices we make.
It does how we use it,
Yeah.
the values we build into it, the safeguards we put in place.
Yeah. Absolutely. We need to have these conversations now.
So we can shape a future where AI is used for good.
This brings up another interesting concept from the articles: human-centered AI.
Oh yes, human-centered AI is about designing AI systems that align with human values,
Okay.
and that put human well-being first.
So using AI to help people, not just to increase profits,
Exactly. It's about AI and humans working together.
to create a better future for all of us.
A symbiotic relationship.
I like that.
Finding ways for AI to make our lives better, not control them.
So what can people do to shape this future?
It can feel overwhelming with all this change.
It does.
But I think the most important thing is to stay informed, be curious, and never stop learning,
So be proactive and adaptable.
rather than passive and afraid.
Take charge of your own learning and development
And make sure you have the skills and knowledge you need.
to thrive in an AI-powered world.
Exactly. The future is not something that happens to us, it's something we create.
Hmm.
By being informed and engaged, we can all help shape a future where AI is used to make the world a better place.
That's empowering. It reminds us that we have a choice,
We do.
even with all this technological change.
We're not just along for the ride. We can help steer the ship. The future is not set in stone. It's up to us to decide what kind of world we want and to use AI to help us build it.
Those are inspiring words.
Thank you.
I think that's a great place to pause for now.
Okay.
We'll be back in a few minutes to wrap up this deep dive and leave you with something to think about. We're back, and I don't know about you, but
yeah,
my brain is buzzing after all that.
lots to process.
We covered so much.
We did.
But before we wrap up this deep dive into AI and hiring,
Okay.
let's boil it all down to the key takeaways for our listener.
I think the biggest one is
Yeah.
AI in hiring isn't going away.
It's here to stay.
It's here, and it's changing so fast.
At an incredible pace.
The question for companies isn't if they should use AI, but how to use it responsibly, effectively, and ethically.
You're so right. It's about embracing the good,
Yeah.
but being aware of the challenges. And this brings me to another point.
Yeah,
This isn't just an HR thing.
it's not.
It's a whole business transformation.
Absolutely.
Companies need to think about how AI will affect their whole organization, their employees, their culture, their bottom line.
It's about weaving AI into the fabric of the company.
Yeah, not just sticking it in the HR department.
Exactly.
And one last takeaway
Okay.
for everyone listening, whether you're job hunting or in HR or just interested in the future,
Stay curious.
be curious.
This technology is always changing, so be a lifelong learner.
Keep learning.
Explore the resources out there. Try out different AI tools. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
The more we learn about AI,
Yeah.
what it can do, what it can't do.
The better prepared we'll be to navigate its impact on our lives and our work.
So to wrap up this amazing deep dive,
Okay.
let's leave our listeners with a final thought, something to chew on.
Here's one that's been on my mind. As AI gets more and more advanced as it becomes a bigger part of our lives, what does it really mean to be human at work? What are those uniquely human skills and qualities that will be most valuable in a world powered by AI?
Wow.
And how can we cultivate those in ourselves and in others?
That's a deep one.
It is.
It really gets you thinking about the future of work, the future of humanity,
Yeah.
the relationship between humans and technology. It's evolving and it's fascinating.
It really is.
Thanks for joining me on this incredible journey into the world of AI and hiring.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.